Kina semdol kake mofaseda.
Welcome to Talking in Stations, recorded live on Twitch, Saturdays, 1500 Universal Time. I'm your host, Matterall. This is a podcast about EVE Online, a sci-fi computer game played around the clock from people all over the world. Politics, sovereignty, trade, economics, war, all have created a 14-year continuum of epic history, all created by the players themselves. This week, we're going to be talking about the CSM, the Council of Stellar Management, which has come together for a summit. And lots of interesting news has come out of it. We'll go ahead and talk about moon mining and some market-related stuff as well. So prepare yourself. This is going to be a great show, and we have a lot of people to prove it, a lot of really intelligent people. But first, if you would like to support the show, we would greatly appreciate follows, subscribes, bits, tips, all during the show. That's how you vote for a show. You do that sort of thing during the show. And if you are listening to the podcast, we would appreciate contributions at patreon.com/Matterall. And on behalf of the team, I want to thank you for your continual support. All right, let's get right to introductions because we have a giant group. Consider this a round table and a brain trust. These are some of the, for me, smartest guys that play EVE. There are a lot of smart people, but these guys are among them. So top to bottom, let's go Apple Pear. Start with you.
Hello, I'm Apple Pear, member of Hakyuku and part of the Koonstorm Federation.
Caleb?
Hey, I'm Caleb. I'm one of the Permadoc market people.
Carneros?
Oh, good morning. Carneros, the CEO of The Bastion.
Hey, what's up? It's Dirk McGurk from the Open Com Show, member of Sniggardly in Pandemic Legion.
Adronica?
Hi, yes, I'm Dronica. I'm the CEO and founder of EVE Mogul, and I'm in Habit in Pandemic Legion.
Hi, I'm Yintan. I'm CVA's representative on the CSM, amongst many, many other things. I wear a lot of hats and a lot of ties.
Newman?
Hey, I'm Newman, director of Hard Knocks Inc. Been on CSM 11 and 12.
I'm Seamus Donoghue. I'm a professor in the education department at EVE University.
And last but not least, me, Tiberius Stargazer, a member of Dice Corporation within Northern Coalition and staff member over at EVE-NT.
All right, this is a big one. Lots of people here, lots of ideas, and lots to talk about. So we'll try to make it as brief as possible on these things. But first, we're going to talk about moon mining, and that's where a lot of the news was. And we're going to talk about markets with Dronica after that, and then we'll get back to CSM minutes and go through the minutes and give you some insight on how you can prepare for what's coming. Okay, who wants to open up with moon mining?
CCP kind of opened up with moon mining the other day when they had a live Twitch broadcast where they were showing really what the new moon mining is going to look like from anchoring the refinery to blasting the chunk off and kind of what the field is going to look like and sort of the internal mechanisms. I thought they really did a good job with that. So I mean, while we're going to talk about it here, I highly suggest that anybody who is going to be involved in either moon mining itself or the refining process, all of that, to go out and check out that on their Twitch channel when you get a chance.
And it's also on their YouTube channel as well, if you're subscribed to that.
Yeah, one change they announced for all Citadels there during that stream is that when you anchor in Citadel, you have now start within 15-minute timer that you can shoot the structure. You don't have to wait at least a day to do that. So that's a nice, interesting change.
And they're going to spread that to all the structures, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, same time.
And that explain why that's a big deal.
It's basically if you spend your entire time destroying a structure, and then the people that you destroyed the structure for ninja down another structure before you can get one down. It allows you to take out another one instantly, rather than having to wait 24 hours. kind of important back in the POS system, because a lot of people would be trying to put up the POS first before the other person.
Yeah, so it was a race to put something up before another one was put down, because then you'd have to wait another day or two to actually attack it and start all over. So yeah,
well, that was one of the things, and I think you really saw a lot of that during kind of the tech wars, right? When there was really battling over moons, and you'd have this big conflagration fight over this moon, over this pause. You would destroy it, and it was just, well, which side could just smack down the stick again, immediately, and it was a race to that. Whereas here, you're not going to have that. Now you'll have this 15-minute vulnerability window, where if you do knock it down and other people are on grid, they can immediately begin to hit it. And the fact that they're going to stretch this out to all structures, going forward, I think is also, I think that's also good. That there should be a vulnerability as somebody's putting one of these things down, that it can be immediately attacked for a short period there.
Tibbs?
Yeah, so I'm kind of curious as to why they've set it up this way, doing this whole 15-minute timer as opposed to coming up with some other solution to it. I know it kind of...
Isn't it to get that patty cake competition thing going? So it's someone puts something up, then it gets shut down, then another one comes up, then another comes up.
Yeah, but why didn't they just do something along the lines of, if two people tried to anchor these refineries with these modules on it, they both cancelled each other out, and it wouldn't actually do anything until the other one was destroyed, for example? Why didn't CCP go down the line of doing something like that, we think?
I'm pretty sure this sounds more fun, and it's going to create more destruction, I think.
Well, I mean, okay, so we probably need to back up a little bit, is that the only place that you'll be able to anchor one of these things, if you want it to actually be used for moon mining, is at a specific point. I forget what they call it, a moon mining
launch point.
Yeah, and you'll only, and within the range of this point in space off of a moon, you will only be able to anchor one of these refineries.
It's probably just the warp in point of the moon. So you right-click empty space, you select a moon, you warp to 0, there you are.
No, it's a special beacon that you can select when you warp to a moon as an option to warp to.
Is it?
Yeah.
I think it's going to have its own drop-down, like warp to.
Ah, I stand corrected.
Carneros, did you have something?
Just that it might be that doing it with an additional online cycle might be less code to write and might be less risky than having it check for each other and cancel each other out and have edge cases and a lot more to test.
Yeah. Well, I want to say probably the way it was explained, I think, by CCP was that you have to control the field. And once you do, you kind of have rights to it. So if they want to drop 3 or 4 or 5 structures in a row, you can just eliminate them or have a chance to eliminate them one after another. So you really have to control the space, and then you get to put yours down, and it takes 15 minutes to clear so that, you can't just block people like they used to. There's a lot of weird mechanics in EVE history where you would put something down and shoot it yourself in order to trigger it, and that would lock it up for a few days, and it would create a timer, et cetera, and they're just trying to eliminate that. For all structures, which is important. And the part about it, there being a beacon where you can mine from, that's very important, because that means it was originally proposed as you can put as many refineries around a moon as you wanted to, but only one could mine at one time. So you could imagine there's 4 or 5 refineries around a moon, and one would be going, and when one stops, another one would get going. But nope, they went back to kind of the pause system where there's one refinery per moon. They can actually do the mining. Now, what does that mean? That means that somebody who doesn't want a moon mine will put a refinery down and block everybody else from moon mining, because they can put their refinery down and not mine anything.
Well, they could.
They could do that.
They could. Like, let's say, for instance, that they wanted to come into your space and just drop one. They have no intention of moon mining it, but they're going to block you, right? And they're going to maybe make you come out and try and attack it if they want that moon space or something like that. It could be used for bait. It could be just used to block somebody. I don't know how much of that, will actually go on, but yeah, I mean, the potential is there for it.
What do you guys think? Will it happen?
I think so.
I doubt it.
I think if someone's getting take in their space, like someone's invading them, the people who are getting invaded will drop a bunch of refineries on the moons. So,
oh yeah, on
they'll have to
invasion
clean it up.
tactics, sure, I agree.
So maybe we're along with the because citadels are really important at the moment for making incursions into other people's space because it gives you a good platform to leap off into their space and harass them with. So you're thinking potentially that maybe refineries would become the thing to put on moons rather than just your standard sort of citadel type things now.
Well, I'm sure CCP had this discussion amongst themselves, and they're like, this is great conflict generator. Let's do it. And I think they know that this is going to cause a lot of pain because it allows people to really mess with you. And that's what they want, so that you'll fight back. It's like, poke, 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 poke. Come on, I'm taking your lunch money. But it is going to, I think, a lot of hand-wringing for people who don't have the numbers to stand up to groups that want to do that sort of thing. But for PL, that's a huge payday, right? Because that's what they do. So look out, Brave. Your moons are going to get blocked. Just kidding. All right. Let's move over to... Sorry, I have to scroll down here. We have a guest, Jeronica, we want to bring in. But first, let's wrap up moon mining. Do you guys have anything else on this? Yeah, there's a huge thing, and that is the reset. Do we think that's going to cause a bunch of upset?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I mean, we've been saying that for a while, right? I mean, we've been saying that the dislocation that's going to happen from a complete and total reset of every moon, out there is going to be, disruptive. It's going to be disruptive in a number of ways. Number one, what you have right now is not necessarily what you're going to have in the future in terms of quality of moons or anything like that. You're going to have to go out there and, I mean, look. Number one, you're gonna have to scan your own space and see what you've got, right? The space that you kind of control in one way or another, whether it be in nullsec or lowsec. But then you're gonna have organizations out there that want to know. Well, I want to know what everything else is out there. Is this the region I still want to be kind of focusing on, or do we need to move someplace else? So you'll have some of these big organizations that are going to have. People out there scanning everything. Who knows? Maybe even working together to give themselves both lists together.
I know people who put in requests for time off for the first day, specifically just to go around scanning moons.
So I know those people will be there.
At work, that's funny.
This gives me an interesting question. Excuse the missus suddenly deciding to do the recycling in the middle of when I'm talking in my show. Anyway, we'll carry on. So this is an interesting point. So at the moment, CCP, when they rebalanced and redistributed the moons, when was it? I think it was 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago, something like that. They set them up to give them quite a nice even balance around the universe. Probably maybe a question that CSM guys may be able to answer. Has there been any change to that sort of setup? I mean, will the distributions kind of be the same it is now? They'll just be on different moons, or is there like a whole different thing going on?
Hard NDA.
That would be hard NDA.
But Fozzie did say that it's going to be slightly the same, right? He said it's not going to be major changes to the distribution of the rare stuff. It's going to be slightly similar value, right?
Well, he said the amounts, I think the total realm of amounts, and that's one of the points I wanted to make too, would be a little bit greater. But it looks like the system is a lot less efficient than it was.
Yeah,
so
of course.
That's going to put a lot of pressure
labor,
on.
Right?
Yeah, it's going to put a lot of pressure.
I mean, there is speculation. I don't even want to call it speculation. Kenneth Feld, I think, had said either here or someplace else that over in a Slack channel that goes on, where I guess some devs have made some comments that when they do this redistribution, right, when they do this whole wipe and whatever algorithm that they're using for doing it, it's potentially going to seek to distribute things maybe better than what it has in the past, maybe with an eye towards more of that kind of nullsec self-sufficiency kind of kind of idea, that you're not going to get big globs of just really good stuff in one place, and then over here is dead and barren for that kind of stuff. So so we'll have to see. I mean, because again, this isn't even just about how are we redistributing R64s, right? I mean, the moons as we know them now are going away, and in the future, those moons, number one, moons are going. every moon's going to have something on it. It may be just ore, right? Or it may be moon goo plus ore, or it may be these other things.
But Dirk, you have to add the labor cost, right? The labor cost, if that's going to be a flat rate, that means that when you add the labor cost to the lower end stuff, that actually means that it's going to be a lot more valuable because it's going to require the same work, right? Where in the past, because of distribution scarcity, then the price was very low because it was easy to get to, right? Now it's going to be hard, so you're going to get that markup.
Oh, yeah, and I don't just discount that. I'm just more talking about kind of the distribution of these things. That it's not even going to just be like, an R64 here is the same as an R64 over there. That a tech moon here and a tech moon there are identical, right? I mean, moons are going to be different even amongst their own kind of class.
And you're also going to get the jackpot thing as well.
You will see a whole new pricing on everything because of this, right? Because the composition, everything needs everything. So you will not
have. We can probably go over that better in the actual refinery minutes, which are later on. This is just talking about the other changes that weren't covered in the minutes that have now been publicized.
All right, so let's summarize real quick. So every moon is going to have something. I think that's important. Only one refinery per moon per spot. So you're either mining it or you're blocking it for somebody else. There's generally going to be the same amount of moon goo in the existence, but there is a less efficient system, which probably means prices for moon goo will go up and stay up. And there's a corp mining ledger, which will allow people basically to tax if they want to other players for the amount of mining they do, which gives people like Goonswarm and RDF, or basically empires that have a lot of people doing a lot of different things, a way of tracking how much, they owe the state in taxes. So it's a good bottom-up taxation system rather than one person collecting all the money and giving it to the corp and then the corp distributing the money among the people.
And they're also adding that data to APIs, so you can add it into all your fancy third-party tools as well for your corp management stuff.
Oh, great. So we'll see a lot of that. All right, let's go on to, you want to talk about refineries, Jintan?
Oh, no, I was just saying, if we're going to go in, well, I thought we were going to go through the notes, so we can touch on that when we get to them.
Okay, yeah, because when we talk about CSM, we'll talk about refineries. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is to bring in Jeronica here. And, one thing that Newman brought up, the jackpot chunk, if you're reading these minutes, explain what that is, Newman.
Basically, it's just going to have a RNG chance of having a bunch of moon goo in a rock.
So it's a random generator. So
basically,
you may actually
think like dense feldspar, so you get 10% more yield or something like that, but for your moon rocks.
Cool. So a little extra every once in a while to surprise people. All right. Markets.
The other part I just wanted to touch on that was the second half of that paragraph. Was that someone suggested that maybe some great big eldritch monster sometimes appears, which would be quite funny. But that's not going to happen. But it was touched upon in the notes. And I thought that was a hilarious idea. Just suddenly you put up a moon chunk and instead of a nice bonus one or a regular one, you get something that's just like, oh, what is this?
So you dig into a rock, you find a gazebo, and then it reaches out and kills you.
The deadly gazebo.
All right, yeah. Let's talk about markets. Jeronica, thanks for coming. Can you tell us your strategies for the change? How are people supposed to prepare for these changes?
Right now, I think the moon goo market is kind of high. So if you're speculating in there, it's probably too late at this point. So salvage is still going to be a good thing to speculate in, though, because all those refineries coming online will need to have rigs, and those rigs take salvage. And I think there's some people in the market discussion area who've been investing a few $100 billion into salvage, so they obviously see something there. But yeah, there's lots of things to be changing in the next patch, and there's going to be a lot of volatility for people to make money off of. I did want to, however, touch about the Plex. Their opening statement in the minutes is talking about Plex and the fact that they kind of want to get rid of the offshoring, which is something I completely agree with. I don't know what anyone else here thinks of that.
Explain offshoring.
Thank you.
Don't know.
So offshoring is a concept where you go to a low tax, often 0% citadel, one jump away from the hub to do all your trading. And that's basically, or primarily the RMT items, so the Plex injectors, extractors, stuff like that. And I'm very against that because I feel that it lets people trade with immense amounts of wealth for free. And I just think that's a bad move for the whole state of the economy. So I'm very happy to see that CCP thinks the same. And,
Well, you should
full
maybe
disclaimer.
comment that it's kind of because CCP's pricing scheme is pretty flat and not very dynamic responsive, so it doesn't take into account volume or activity or trade at all. There's no market index like there's an industry index. So that's why offshoring is such a good idea, because you're basically avoiding that tax.
But
That's an interesting idea.
just so we put it clearly, you're the owner of Citadel or Citadels around the JITA area. So for you, your profit is, say, at 2% because you have it at a low percentage for people who want to trade with JITA. But people who put up Citadels and go 0%, you only need to pay 100 ISK for your trade. That's undercutting you. So you would want to see this gone, wouldn't you?
Yeah. A lot of people say that I am against it because I want to consume that tax.
Mm-hmm.
But in all the comments I've said and articles I've written, I've always proposed an NPC tax to kind of be an ISK sink for CCP to consume some of the ISK in the industry and markets right now.
Yeah. And to be fair, it's not just you that thinks this. Everybody that I've talked to or heard from has said the same thing. I think it's like unanimous agreement that 0% is just too low.
Yeah, it's just that there's no incentive to compete in any other way than a race to the bottom, right? Because of CCP's flat pricing model, right? So there's no dynamic, there's no increase in fuel consumption based on activity of a market module, and the same with the NPC stations. They are just fixed and static. It's a dynamic model that would solve this problem and making it a two-tiered one, same as with pricing on industry slots.
When you say it's a race to the bottom, you're saying it's a race to cut your tax, your fees for the transaction to zero.
Yeah, you're basically cutting until you have the majority of the market, and you can't cut further down than zero. So everyone has just been racing to a zero broker fee market.
And it basically just reduces the margin in between the buy and sell quite a bit. So if you had that tax there, you'll still make money. It's just the margin will be slightly bigger to account for that tax.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
So is there anybody out there who's actually arguing against this? For maintaining the status quo of offshoring?
There's one group. They're called Planet 5. You'll probably see them in the.
Oh yeah, they're the ones that have zero taxes. I've used them. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, personally, I do not agree that we need to get rid of offshoring. I think we need to have a system that actually creates a proper incentive to compete, right? That's also the only way to, in a good way, pull the markets off of the NPC hubs. The only way to do that is to nerf the NPC hubs. So there is a competition between players, so players take over.
I think the larger problem is the margin trading, to where people can set up these orders and have no skin in the game. They don't get punished for setting up these basically fake orders, and they're ghosting their buy orders. And when you